What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Meg, and today we are doing the all about my eyeshadow palette tag. I first saw this tag on Instagram. Pale Canvas posted this to her IG stories. By the way, she's like insanely talented. If you're not following her, you should. I'll link her down below. But I thought this could be a really fun video, and I'll get to get into things a little bit more than I would on stories. So before we get into it, be sure that you subscribe to my channel. I mostly do a lot of tutorials and education when it comes to makeup. So if you want to learn how to get a look step by step, you are in the right place. But I also like to post some lifestyle things and some fun tags. If you would like to play along, write your answers out down below as the video goes on. Give me a thumbs up if you're excited for this. And if you do this video, please tag me, MakeupByMegB, on all my social media and let me know so I can come see what your answers are. And also, if you're curious about the makeup look that I am wearing, I did a recreation of Miley Cyrus's Midnight Sky makeup, so it is linked right up above. Let's go ahead and roll into the tag. All right, the first one up is your newest palette. So this is my newest palette. I really haven't purchased a lot of 2020 because 2020 things. But I couldn't resist getting this palette when it came out. I love Urban Decay. You will hear more as this video goes on. But this is my favorite brand. I would love to work with them one day. That is like the ultimate goal. But this is the newest palette. This is the Ultraviolet palette. It is smashing. I love it that it's purple. It's about time Urban Decay released some purple into their collection. And if you would like to see a review, I will have it linked up above. And then I also did 3 looks with one palette, so that will be linked throughout the video as well. And any video that you miss in the info bar will be also linked in the description box below. So yes, newest palette, absolutely love it. Next up is oldest palette. Did I mention Urban Decay? This is the oldest palette that I have. This is actually the very first high-end makeup purchase I ever made. I will never get rid of this. When I say Urban Decay has a special place in my heart, I really mean it. So this is the Ammo palette. If anyone else has this, please let me know. But at the time, like, I'm really gonna age myself here, but about 13 years ago, when I first went into Sephora, because I lived out in the middle of the country, it was like a big deal. Like, this huge outdoor shopping mall came into town and Sephora was a store there. And I, at the time, had discovered YouTube and really got into makeup. So I walked into Sephora, saw a land of neutral eyeshadow palettes, and Urban Decay was really the only brand back then that had color, and this was a colorful palette for back then. So it being my first higher end purchase, I did like that there were some neutral shades in here, but also some pops of color. I got so much good use out of this palette. It is all shimmers, but you could still make a cohesive look with it. So if you would like to see me do a tutorial, obviously it's hella expired, but if you would like to see me do a tutorial using some of my oldest makeup, let me know in the comments. I don't know, is that a video you would be interested in seeing? But yeah, this was such a big deal back in the day. I absolutely love it. Oldest palette. Next is most expensive, and I have a 3-way tie because I have 3 of these palettes. These are the Norvina collection palettes by Anastasia. This is volume 3, so here is a little sneak peek of the inside. I have yet to do a video showcasing this. It's on my to-do list, but I do have volumes 1 through 3 in this collection, and it is the most expensive at $60. So with that being said though, you do get 25 eyeshadows in here, so for $60, it's really a good bargain. It just happens to be my overall most expensive palette. And in case if you were wondering, for reference, this Naked palette is $48. So $48 for 12 shadows or $60 for 25. If you're looking for some color, I highly recommend this. I think it's such a good deal. You get so much for your money. Moving along to most affordable palette. This is definitely a ColourPop palette. This is the smallest little eyeshadow palette by ColourPop. Baby Got Peach, their peach collection. I love the colors in here. It's such a good neutral palette, but if you want some pops of color, you definitely have it in there. And this is the cheapest palette that I own for $12. 9 shadows, $12, not a bad deal. And my neighbor just started up their diesel truck. So if you hear low white noise or whatever, that's what that is. All right, moving along. Perfect everyday palette. By far, it has to be the Dose of Colors Francation palette. This was in collaboration with Desi and Katie. I have not stopped loving this palette since it first released. This is such a perfect go-to everyday palette. We have our neutral colors. The shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. I'm not gonna carry on, but if you would like to learn more about this palette, I do feature it in my top makeup palettes for beginners video, linked up above and also down below. So if you would like to learn more why I think this is such an amazing palette and why I really do use it for an everyday palette, check out the video. But this has everything that I need and that I could ask for if I'm doing like an everyday kind of neutral look. The formulation in here is one of the best eyeshadow formulas I've come across in my 13 years of really playing with makeup, so I can't really say enough good things. And if I have videos featuring any of these palettes, I will create a playlist and have it down below for you, because I do a lot of reviews and first impressions, and I also do a lot of makeup tutorials. So it'll be a really big playlist, but if you're curious about videos featuring any of the palettes mentioned in this video, check down there. Let's see, what is next? Most colorful. So again, this is kind of like a tie between the 3 palettes that I mentioned earlier, but I think out of all 3 of them, volume 2 of the Norvina collection is the most colorful. I feel this one really has a good range of the rainbow in it, where I feel like volume 3 is mostly warmer tones and oranges and reds, and volume 1 is more pinks and purples. So I think this is the most well-balanced, colorful one, so that's what I picked for most colorful eyeshadow palette. Maybe 2 neutrals in sight. Up next is smallest eyeshadow palette. So this is a quad. This is a first collab with Desi and Katie that they did with Dose of Colors. I wasn't the biggest fan of this. The formulation was a little bit confusing because 2 of the shadows it's recommended that you use wet. The other 2 it says not to use them wet. So if they had clarification on the packaging so you didn't have to hold on to the card, that would have been better. Yeah, I wasn't super impressed with these. The formulation in the Francation palette is like 10,000 times better, but this is the smallest palette in my collection. I can't help but to give mini reviews on what I'm showing you guys. So smallest, now we have to move on to largest, right? So, I mean, hello, it's bigger than my damn head. We've all seen this palette on YouTube. It's the James Charles and Morphe palette. It's really big. It barely fits in my makeup drawer back there. But yeah, largest makeup palette that I have. I do think that this is difficult to work with. I do think that there are better colorful shadows out there, like the Norvina palettes. Just my thoughts and opinions. So up next we have palette with the best memory, and I have to pick the palette that I did my wedding makeup with. So my husband and I actually eloped in Vegas when we got married, and then about a year and a half later we went home to have a ceremony. It was like a vow renewal, I guess you could say. So we did like another ceremony and reception back home a year and a half later with our friends and family. But when we eloped, I was all about the Gwen Stefani palette that she created with Urban Decay. Have I mentioned that I love Urban Decay? This is such a cool tone palette. I don't like the red warm tone eyeshadows. I'm much more of a taupey cool tone bitch. This was my shit back when it came out. It was such a good palette, perfect for every day, and I did my wedding makeup with it, and you can't really beat a memory like that. And for that reason, I will never get rid of this palette. Now we're throwing a little shade because it's a palette not worth the hype, and I almost put the James Charles palette in here again, but I have another one that I think is even less worth the hype than the James one, and that's the Soft Glam one by Anastasia. Don't kill me. I know so many people love Modern Renaissance and love Soft Glam when it came out, but it just didn't do it for me. I didn't see what the big deal with ABH was, because this is the first palette that I ever bought from them, and I just wasn't impressed. I wasn't blown away. People acted like this palette was like, had a life-changing eyeshadow formula. The formulation's all right. I just prefer other eyeshadow palettes and like them more than this. Honestly, the Dusty Rose color is what drove me to get it. And the shimmers in here are really nice, like Glistening, Rose Pink, and Sultry are all gorgeous, but I just never reached for this ever. And I tried forcing myself to use it a couple of weeks ago, and I just didn't like how my eyeshadow turned out. So for that reason, I have to say this just wasn't worth the hype, and I do regret buying it. What are your thoughts on their earlier palettes that put them on the map? What did you think of them? I know everyone hated Subculture, so I guess pre-Subculture, if you own an ABH palette, what are your thoughts on it? So now we go to a palette that is worth the hype. And to not completely hate on ABH, Norvina Volume 1 is completely worth the hype. If you even have the slightest inkling towards colorful eyeshadows, you need this palette. Let me just go ahead and re-highlight the fact that you get 25 eyeshadows for $60. And they're a good size pan in here. The formulation is completely unmatched. This is my most used one out of the 3, but I think I can speak the same for all 3, volumes 1 through 3, as I am with this one. But the formulation in here is just so good. It blends out. Purples are so tricky to not have go patchy and to be smooth and to actually blend them out. And you can do that with this palette. If you like purple eyeshadow, you need this palette. It is just so good. And then it has the few other fun pops of color here at the bottom. The shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. This A1 shade I'm wearing as a highlight today, so you can, you know, versatile your makeup. I absolutely love this. And my inner corner is this C2 shade. So I absolutely think this is completely worth the hype. Even if you want to dip your toes in it, I think it's a good investment. You're getting a lot of color for your money. So moving on to the next one. Favorite palette by favorite brand. So I have 2 because the one is really old and really expired. Okay, the first one that I have, my favorite palette of all time, is the Urban Decay 15th anniversary, and I think they're on year 19. So this palette's like 5 years old. I think they're close to 20 years. But yeah, the 15th anniversary palette, this was like so iconic when it came out. I was like, oh my god, the packaging, it's like a velvet box and like the mirror and the jewel, and it was just like so like 2012 or 13 or whenever it was that this came, 2014, 2015. Anyway, I love the packaging. I just hated the packaging when filming though, because it's all mirrored and reflective, but this palette is absolutely gorgeous. This is like the epitome of Urban Decay to me. Beautiful shimmers, okay? It's like you have pearlescent finishes, you have straight glitters, jewel chromes. Omen is my all-time favorite eyeshadow color. And if you are someone that likes Omen, Euphoric and the new Ultraviolet palette is almost an exact dupe. I do swatches of them in my Ultraviolet review. But yeah, I think it would also be kind of fun to try to do a makeup look with this too. I just feel so nostalgic going through all these palettes. But yeah, I really love, their formulation is like unmatched. They're so different from any other brand that I've tried, especially when it comes to dual chromes. No one does a dual chrome like Urban Decay. Fight me in the comments, tell me I'm wrong, because you can't. So, I said this was a tie. That palette is old. I need to give a new updated response. And for that, my favorite palette is the Alyssa Edwards palette with Anastasia Beverly Hills. So while I wasn't a fan of Soft Glam, I saw them collab with Miss Edwards and I had to get my damn hands on this palette, okay? I was so afraid that it was gonna sell out before I could get to it. I This palette's incredible. Okay, if you're interested in color and volume 1 is a little bit intimidating for you and it seems like a lot and you're a little iffy on it, please pick this up instead. It has your neutral shades in there, which I much prefer the neutral shades in here over Soft Glam. These are so much better. Like the formula in here, I feel like this is when they changed their formula and tried something new, because this palette, it just had so good. The purples, the blue, the pink, the yellow, they're all bam. Unicorn Tribe is my favorite shade in this palette. The white is the whitest white eyeshadow that I had ever tried up until the point of it coming out. Inspire is a gorgeous shimmer. The pigment is real. The pigment is there. It will pack a punch and you can blend it out without it going patchy. And I believe that AnastasiaBeverlyHills.com has this palette on sale for $27. So there's like literally no excuse to not really get it because it's such a good deal. I would totally pay $27 if you're even thinking about trying some bright colored shadows. It's so worth the money. I could go on for like 10 minutes about how much I freaking love this palette and how amazing it is. So congratulations again to Alyssa, like a couple years later. This is still so good. And last but not least, we have most used palettes. So this again could have been a tie with Friendcation, but oops, I grabbed the wrong one. 1 second. Hands down, most used palette, Jaclyn Hill, the OG Morphe palette, man. It's so good. I accidentally grabbed the new one, which I'm still playing and exploring, but I like so far. But this is hands down my most used palette. Anytime I travel, this is what's in my makeup bag because I know I can create so many variety of looks. I can do a soft look, a shimmery look, a very dramatic look. And again, I feel like a lot of the blending matte shades are more on the neutral side. They're not super warm. So like shades like this and this, I'm not a huge fan of. But these I can tolerate more because they're more like a toned down warm tone shadow, if that makes sense. But I wore this palette so many days in a row. And if I just want to do a really quick neutral eyeshadow palette and I want to take a break from Friendcation because there's really only like 3 shades in there that you can truly use. And if I want something different than those shades, I'm reaching for this. And the shimmers in here are so nice. The formulation, this really changed the game for Morphe because I bought their 35O palette and was not impressed, and I was so confused why everyone was hyping it up. So I was like, okay, if Jaclyn put out a palette, like I have to check it out. And I fell in love with it, and this is such a unique formula. Unfortunately, I heard the formula may have changed over the last couple of years since they relaunched it. But yeah, most used eyeshadow palette. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. That is gonna wrap it up. Let me know if you've tried any of the eyeshadow palettes or like what are your thoughts on the palettes that I mentioned in this video. I would really love to hear from you guys down in the comment section. And again, if you do this yourself, feel free to tag me so I can see it and respond. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a good day, a good week. Hopefully we are able to have a good month. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.